What's going on? It's the Big Rig Bull, Texas Truck Accident Warrior Reshard Alexander, here again today on a Tuesday, and I have great news. I am ecstatic about this new kombucha. Yeah, I know, it's not related to truck accidents or anything at all, but hey, I love kombucha. It's awesome. You know, it makes my day. I'm a nerd like that. Deal with it. One of the worst things about being a lawyer is the number of phone calls you have to field every day from just marketers. You know, all these different companies just calling you for, would you like to be listed here? Would you like to subscribe to this? Do you need new cable? Do you need this? Do you need that? It's so irritating. Like, if I needed that, wouldn't I call you? I don't know. So I'm drinking more water now. Like I said, I bought this water bottle from the store today. It's called Smart Water, but I don't feel any smarter for buying it. I mostly bought it just because of the fact that after I drink this bit of water, I can refill it, you know, more than a few times. Hold on one second. I'll tell you another reason why I like kombucha is because it seems like, you know, anytime that you're feeling kind of like down or just you feel like you're getting sick or something like that, if you drink this stuff, I mean, it seems like it just is like medicine in a bottle for the most part. I mean, you know, it's probiotic, and I'm a big fan of probiotics, but it always seems like it makes you feel energized, you know, give you a little bit more. I don't know if there's one particular moment that stands out to me when I knew exactly that I wanted to practice truck accident law, but I know of a few situations that I've been in where I knew that I was like done with wanting to practice criminal law. And one of them was, so one situation was I was a court-appointed attorney at one point, you know, yeah, don't give me no slack about being a court-appointed attorney because I did my job, did what I was supposed to do. But I was representing this one guy. I got appointed to him, and so, you know, the courtroom is like packed. It's full of people, you know, everybody's intermingling, talking to their attorney. The family members are sitting in the background, kind of pensive, looking at the lawyers, looking at the prosecutors, you know, just, it's just so much stress going on that you could feel it in the air in there. And it's cool, you know what I mean, because after a while when you practice law, you kind of learn that this is the environment that you're going to be in. But I remember getting appointed to this one guy, and I was like, hey man, let's go outside and talk about your case real quick, because I never like to sit there and talk about a person's case right there in front of everybody and stuff. And then two, you know, I always wanted to kind of find out, you know, what do you know that I don't know, and maybe the police don't know, or whoever, you know, let me know what's going on with your case and whatnot. So we go outside and we talking, and this lady walks up, and she's like just kind of standing there and looking all, you know, real angry, you know, at me or whatnot, and then looking at him. You know, after a while her face kind of softens and everything, and you see this very often. I mean, because people have such a mistrust of the judicial system that even the people that are supposed to represent them, they feel like you're working against them somehow. So, you know, I'm just like, okay, cool. We're talking about the guy's case and everything that's going on. You know, he's facing some serious like charges or whatnot, and it's drug related. So after I finished talking to him, you know, I try to address the lady because I see she's just standing there, and you know, he seemed to didn't have a problem with him. He knew her because I saw them when they first came in together, so he knew her. I mean, the guy is like, he looks like he's 20 years old, 22 years old, young, you know what I mean? He a young looking dude. So I say to him, I see you brought your mom, but I'm glad your mom came out, you know, and shook and reached to shake her hand. And she was like, I'm not his mom, I'm his girlfriend. I'm telling you right now that meth is a bad drug to be using. You gonna use any drug, I wouldn't do that one. That meth will make you melt. It makes your face melt. It makes you look, you could be 25 years old. It'll make you look like you're 65. And I just said, oh ma'am, I'm sorry, because I didn't mean to offend the lady. I didn't really know that was his girlfriend. You just gonna let her do that to herself? But whatever, man, you know, it's just criminal law crazy, bro. Y'all don't understand all the stuff that you see as a criminal lawyer. Cheers to smart water. I'm gonna try to drink at least 2 more of these today. Maybe that's overkill, but I gotta start drinking more water. It's getting too hot outside. Let me touch on something real quick while I got you here. So the personal injury question of the day is, if you are an immigrant, do you still have the right to pursue a car accident case? And you absolutely do. Okay, even if you're undocumented and you're involved in a car accident, you have a right to pursue your claim. I just signed up a case like that 2 or 3 days ago, where the man didn't speak Spanish, and so speak English, and so like I said, we're gonna pursue his case because, like I said, we're not gonna play that game. I mean, I don't get into politics and I don't care anything about any of that, but when it comes to my clients, you're not gonna play with my clients. So that's the personal injury question of the day. Reshard Alexander, Texas truck accident lawyer, the Big Rig Bull. Today we're going to cover the International Roadcheck 2019 that is taking place across North America. It's going to be taking place from June 4th to the 6th, the next 72 hours. Inspectors, approximately 9,000 of them, will be on the roads and in various places checking commercial motor vehicles. This year's Roadcheck 2019 is going to focus on suspension systems and steering systems. So I felt like it would be a good idea to just kind of cover that a bit, not necessarily because it will help truck accident victims, but these are some of the things that a truck accident lawyer would examine in the event that you have like a car accident, maybe a blowout or something that results in a truck accident, but you can't exactly tell what is wrong with the 18-wheeler or the tractor trailer at the time of the after the crash. So to get started, the annual CVSA program is held in partnership with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. That's the United States agency that governs all of this, transportation laws and whatnot for us, handles that. Now the Canadian Council of Motor Transport Administrators will be handling it in Canada, along with the SCT, which is another Canadian agency. But as of now, FreightWaves and Transport Topics has not reported whether or not Mexico, the Ministry of Communications and Transportation, is going to participate or is participating in this program. Let's hope that they are, because if they're driving trucks up here through Texas, we would like those vehicles to be inspected and safe on our roads, obviously. Starting off, 49 CFR Statute 570.60 covers the steering system of trucks or 18-wheelers, commercial motor vehicles. What we're essentially looking at are a few things, but I'm just going to go down this list because what we're covering right now is the inspection procedure that they're going to deal with once they get stopped by an inspector. So The first thing you're looking for is system play. Okay, so the inspection procedure is going to start by turning the engine on, making sure the steering axle is facing forward, and turning the rim to detect play. And what I mean by that is play between the tires and the steering column or the steering wheel rim. Okay. Then secondly, they're going to look for linkage play. They're going to look for free play. And now, I'm sorry, going back to table 1 very briefly. There's part 1. There is a table for A, or system play, that you have to go back and check how much system play you have between the steering column and the actual tires themselves. The same thing, well, not the same thing is true in the linkage play. When you're talking about the linkage play in part B, what you have to basically do is get down on the tires. The tires are going to be held up, and you have to be able to turn them left and right, and have to be able to freely move. What they're basically doing is they're checking the ball joints and determining whether the steering linkage that allows it to rotate, whether you have a bad steering knuckle. Usually you can tell if you have a bad ball joint, steering knuckles and whatnot, if when you drive the vehicle you can kind of hear a rattling noise as you're driving. So the table that they will be looking at for this linkage play is that if it's 16 or less, it can only have a linkage play of 1/4 inch. If it's 16 to 18, it's 3/8 of an inch, and if it's 18.01 or more, it's 1/2 an inch. So that's what they're looking for there. How will they do that? Like I said before, they're going to elevate the front of the vehicle, looking at the ball joints. They're going to inspect the wheel bearings and make sure they're correctly adjusted. And it has to be a free movement between the front and the rear thread of the tires, and it cannot exceed the table value, because like I said, if it exceeds the table value, that's excessive steering linkage, and that can lead to an out of service situation. The next thing is free turning. The steering wheel should be able to turn freely in both directions. Okay, how they're going to measure that? Well, they're going to turn on the engine and keep the car running. If it has power steering, they're going to do it then. And if it doesn't have power steering, they're going to elevate the wheels, and they're going to check it that way because it doesn't have power steering. Now, they're going to look for binding and jamming in the steering gear mechanism to make sure that it's operating correctly. From what I've read, like I said, from FreightWaves and Transport Topics and a few other places, that has not been the biggest issue reported across the nation for the most part. I believe it's either too much or too little air, and leaks in a lot of the systems has been like the biggest problem right now. The next thing is they're going to check for alignment. Now, with the alignment, they're checking toe-in, toe-out conditions shall not be greater than 1.5 times the value listed in the vehicle's manufacturing service specification alignment setting. When you're looking at alignment, and this is pretty much true whether you're dealing with a car or a truck, there are a few things that kind of tell you whether the alignment is off in your car. One of them is uneven wear on the tire tread. So if you have tires that are bald on the outside, but they're almost like brand new looking on the inside, then you're probably facing an alignment issue. If the car is pulling to one side when you drive, like it just tends to go this way, then you have an alignment issue, definitely. Or if it tilts, the steering wheel is kind of tilting off center when you come to a stop at a stoplight or something like that. So if you're driving and when your wheels are facing completely forward, but your steering column is turned, ajar, that means that you more than likely have an alignment issue in your truck or your car. So how they're going to measure that, as far as with these trucks today, in the next 2 days afterwards, they're going to drive the vehicle over a side slip indicator or measure it with a tire gauge, and the toe-in, toe-out cannot be greater than 1.5 times the manufacturer's service specifications. The last thing they're going to check for steering systems or steering systems is they're going to check the power steering system. Now, like I said, a lot of this stuff is applicable across the board. But if you're in a passenger car, how you know that you have a power steering problem is that when you turn your car wheel, you hear that, it whines. It makes a whining noise. That's how you know if you have a power steering issue. You probably just have to put more power steering fluid in the reservoir to fix that, but you won't know until you get up under the hood. So for a truck, you can have no crack, frayed, or slipping belts. It can't be chafed or braided hoses. It cannot show signs of linkage, which a lot of trucks that are being stopped these days right now are showing signs of leakage. And so they're being placed out of service till it can be fixed and repaired. Or they have insufficient fluid in the reservoir. Like I said before, a lot of times for passenger cars, unless you have a leak or hole in something, more than likely you just need to go to the AutoZone and put you some more power steering fluid in there. So what they're going to do is they're going to examine the fluid reservoir, the hoses, the pumps, the belts, and everything else dealing with that particular situation. The next thing is suspension systems. Suspension systems are covered under 49 CFR 393-207. So, it's kind of common sense. Really, a lot of this is obviously number one, or A, starts off with the axles. The axles can be broken or loose. They must be properly aligned. Adjustable axles, which are B, they can't have any locking pins missing or be disengaged. The leaf springs, you can't have a leaf spring that's cracked or broken or missing or shifting out of position, because that would totally mess up the suspension and the ability to maintain the shock absorption of the truck. So you gotta make sure that the rear axle leaf springs aren't broken and stuff like that. The coil springs cannot have any cracks or be broken as well. The torsion bar cannot be broken or cracked as well. Air suspensions, basically an air pressure regulator valve cannot allow air into the suspension system until at least 55 psi. In braking systems, the vehicle cannot tilt to one side, left or right. The air leakage cannot be greater than 3 psi in a 5-minute time period when the vehicle's air pressure gauge shows normal operating pressure. So, like I said, all this stuff basically deals with shock absorption and whatnot, making sure the truck isn't leaning one way or another and not going to cause a rollover crash, once it leaves that inspection spot. The last thing is air suspension exhaust controls. They must not have the capability to exhaust air from just one one axle of a 2-axle air suspension trailer, unless the controls are located on the trailer or the power unit and the trailer combination are not capable of traveling at a speed greater than 10 miles per hour while the air is exhausted from the suspension system. Now, this doesn't necessarily apply to these two situations, where the devices could exhaust air from both axles simultaneously and with lift axles on multi-axle units. So that's a lot to take in. If you are a truck driver or someone in the trucking industry, I'm pretty sure you understand what this stuff means. And if you you deal with mechanics and whatnot, I'm fairly certain you understand all this. But I feel that this would be a great topic to cover, just kind of addressing these issues, simply because this is the thing that the inspectors are stopping these trucks for right now. And even as a trucker, you need to know what you could be potentially put out of service for, because even though I'm a truck accident lawyer, I understand that people have a job to do, and you don't want to see truckers needlessly put out of service, because America thrives on our transportation and our infrastructure. So that's all I have to say about that, and that looks like that'll be the end of this vlog.